Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Kind of the first order of this particular stream is I need to address this snare. It just, I don't know. I've got a problem with the snare drum. Again, for like the 50th time, not happy with it. And it's just something to do with the fundamental frequency. So let's turn that off. And let's have a listen just to the snare drum. And kind of the point of these streams are as a way for me to check and double check any changes that I make, where I can visually see and remember what has been changed, and if I need to change something back, then that gets changed back with relative ease. So your glasses broke. Oh, you need me to fix them? I can fix them. So we're going to look at the issue with the snare. Hey everybody. Everybody's piling in saying hey. If not expressly put on the rules that you don't say hi. That's all right. I'm going to make some omissions. All right, so what we got to do is we got to record the snare. And then need to listen back to it and see what the issue possibly is. All right, so here we go. We're going to let's go ahead and hit record here. Okay, so we're having issues. We do not want to record on the vocal track, and for some reason it's just selecting whatever it wants. Here we go. Fucking hell. No. I want you to just record. Asshole. All right. Okay. All right, so that worked out pretty well. So we have to listen back now to the snare. Okay, so we're using Logic Pro. Yeah, thank you for the question. And so we're going to listen back to the snare, and we're going to see what the issue is, because I think it has something to do with the fundamental frequency that it's putting out. And this is not your typical snare. It's one that I designed, quote unquote. So pretty much, first of all, it has a hydraulic head on it, which basically means the skin of the drum has a very thin film of hydraulic liquid sandwiched in between the drum heads. So basically it's designed to mute any and all ringing or undesirable frequencies. So very forgiving kind of snare. And at the bottom, I have loosened the snare wires to a point where they're just barely touching the the resonator. So underneath that, I have this layer of fluff, pillow fluff, to mute the snares even further. And we're miking it only from the top. So it's a very unique snare sound, but what I'd like to do is I want to get rid of that. It's not even like a boxy type sound. It's like a it's a weird boof type sound. So we're just gonna listen to it, and I'm gonna try and do some frequency sweeps to figure out what's happening. And to make this work, I need to pull up on OBS here the little window capture that can show me exactly what I'm doing. So window capture 3, we need Logic Pro, and we need the channel EQ. Okay, so I don't know if that's brought that up. Wish there was a way to lock these windows so they don't have an issue. Unfortunately, I don't see a way for me to do that. All right, so that seems to be it here. So we're going to listen back to the snare, and we're going to see if we can just do some frequency sweeping to figure out what is wrong with this snare. So hopefully that's brought in some kind of audio that you can actually hear me speaking over. So we've raised the note here at 365 hertz, I think it is, or is it something else? No, no, no. We are right at 186 hertz. That seems to be where the offending frequency is. I want to just kind of crush that. I want to get rid of it. So what you find though is when you do this kind of thing, what generally happens is you get it to where this thing, it's called frequency whack-a-mole. You get one down, and then you find you have to work with like 10 other things. But if we just widen that, that's better. Let's just raise it slightly. And maybe we can bring back in this fella here. That sounds better. To me, that sounds a bit better. It just doesn't sound, doesn't have that crazy thing happening with that fundamental. So we're gonna do a test without any EQ. And with. Okay, so overall, I'm pretty happy with that. There was something wrong with that where even it wasn't really the fundamental, it was just a little bit above that that was annoying the crap out of me. So honestly, it pays to just go in, do a bit of a sweep, and get rid of what you don't like. And let's hear these drums now in a context with the new EQ setting. So we're going to come over here and we're actually going to record a new little drum part. listen back and let's just listen back and see if we like this or not. Hang on. Seems to have taken away that shitty shrill Yeah, so this is strange. That boof sound is not coming over the headphones. It's coming over the iPhone speaker. Why is that? We need to figure out exactly why that seems to be doing that. So, So let's try just cutting the low frequency completely. That's about as good as we can get that snare. And I think what it is, I don't know why, but when it sounds on the headphones here, and these headphones are probably not very accurate, but when it plays on the through the iPhone speaker, is where I'm hearing this really clumpy low end, even though I've cut all the low end off, pretty much. That really shouldn't be translating to the set unless. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it does sound really good. Like, don't get me wrong, it sounds fantastic. And the work I put into actually voicing it physically is really outstanding, I think. I think maybe let's come in here to the tilt EQ and see if we can maybe fix something with that. So let's hit B. That should bring up the tilt EQ. Thank you. It may have something to do with this crossover point here, because that's actually scooped it out quite a bit, even me not even doing anything. So we probably need to find a sweet spot here that's going to be making everything happy. See, if we dip it at 200 there, that's really scooping everything out pretty extreme. May even be worthwhile checking to see what conventionally that crossover point should be. See, this here, if you can turn your attention here, right in this little spot here, you can see that snare. When the snare kicks up, that's allowing the snare to punch through just a little bit before it gets cut out. And the kick is so high there, that really doesn't need anything. That needs more of a cut anyway. So we're going to go. We can make that really extreme too. So I'm going to listen to that through the actual, yeah, thank you. I'm going to listen to that through the iPhone speakers. No, that's okay. Some people can hear things, and that's okay. I can hear other things, and some people can hear things, and that's okay. I just have to decide on what I'm going to do, because this sets the stage for the rest of the album. So we can either cut it hard like that, or we can just pull it in just a little bit here. And that's not even putting the low shelf, or not the big cut here, so let's put that back on. And this is pretty extreme, but I want to hear what it's doing with that. And really, we should be cutting everything under 40 hertz. There's no information there. There shouldn't be any information. For the type of music that we're doing rock, so that might be a way to do it. And same thing up here, really. And let's go. Maybe try that and see what that looks like. We've lost the we've lost the feed. Hang on a minute. Have we? This is what we want to look at. Okay, so we're gonna take that and roll it back to where we've actually recorded something, and we're gonna listen to this in a full accompaniment context and decide whether that's going to work. I mean, that sounds pretty good on its own. We've severely cut the bass, and honestly, in a situation like when we're mixing here, we want to kind of do that. You know, everything else gets beefed up in the end in the mastering process. So. Hang on. We're back again. And this is probably the issue I've been having is still, even though I've cut most of the, or at least I've dipped all the low frequencies, I've not cut at that 40 to 50 hertz like I should be. It's really kind of hard to know because we're listening to this in the context
It's
of.
really kind of hard to know because.
Hang on.
We're listening to this.
We're listening to this in the context of mix. This is not finished master, but we're trying to listen to it through these iPhone speakers just to make sure that the bass isn't too heavy. And I mean, honestly, by all means, it looks good on the master EQ. Not sure if we want this to be raised as much as it is in the middle here. You want a slight mid bump, but I think it's pretty extreme. So let's try and work with this a little bit. Maybe about there. And yeah, we want to keep that relatively just like that. So let's hear what's happening here. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of tightening up a little bit on the phone. So the trouble is not having a reliable sound source to really check and see what the bass is doing. Um, it's it's hard to kind of gauge where things are going to go and how things are going to work and function um, with the low frequencies. So it's very much a thing where you have to kind of pick and choose, and you have to decide once and for all what you're going to do with regard to that. But once in the mix stage, once you've actually decided on whether you're going to cut at that point, when you've done that, that has to, that's going to be carried throughout the entire thing. I mean, there's really no bringing those frequencies back. I mean, you can emulate them in the mastering process, but you have to, at some point, you have to decide, well, if we're going to cut here at 40 hertz, and that's a pretty severe cut, right? That's getting rid of all of your sub frequencies. They're gone. Some people even, I mean, honestly, some rock was cut right at 50 or even higher back in the day. And so really, I'm kind of inclined to sit at 40 hertz for the cut. And some people like to bump it like that. I'm kind of against trying to do anything like that. If anything, you want a bit of a fall off happening there. But we're just going to keep the cut at 40 hertz and keep it at a 48 decibel slope there. And again, everything that happens here, there's another thing that happens in the mastering process where we've got a dynamic ducker, basically. It's dynamic EQ that can take all that and that can fix that, and it can bring it about nicely. So you really don't have to worry too much. But in this stage, in the mixing stage, regardless of what type of music you're doing, definitely work with a tilt EQ. And yeah, you honestly, it should look something like you're looking at here. You should be cutting at least some people, honestly, depending on what you're doing, you can come down here and you can cut just, you can cut everything that is subharmonic, 20, 25 hertz, 20 hertz. You can cut all that, and that's fine. Some people like to come at 30 hertz and cut all that. But honestly, you want to stick to at least 40 or 45 just to be safe, and really kind of tighten those low frequencies to the point where they're not going to become a problem later on. You certainly do not want to boost anything down here. These are the frequencies you want to get rid of even in the mix stage. Honestly, you even want to, in some cases, apply the tilt EQ to the drum set, just very slightly, and to other instruments as well. People don't realize you don't have to just use tilt EQ on the master mix. You can use it for every instrument. You can use it for your vocals. You can work wonders with everything. Same thing up here. Honestly, everything. I'm not a fan of this part. I'm actually not a fan of coming up here in the very high frequencies and cutting those right back. It's probably wrong, but I like to kind of keep it relatively. I've still got some air there, I think. I think it's important. I could be wrong. But it's just one of those things. It's a matter of personal taste. It's a matter of, I suppose, taking that risk. But the other thing too is you have to remember the context of what type of music you're making makes. I'm not going to say it makes a huge difference, but it makes a difference in terms of what comes next for the next stage, honestly. If you want a clean mix, if you want something that's going to translate well, I do recommend getting rid of the extremes on the master channel at least, and having that work itself out, and getting used to that sound as well. Honestly, you'd be surprised at how many people they've got their mix going and they've got their bass, even cranked. They've got the bass boosted on the master EQ, and it's like, what are you doing? That's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to translate anywhere. It's not going to sound good. You're going to get distortion. Your whole mix, your balance, your dynamic balance is going to be completely screwed up. So it's always best to cut rather than boost, is what I'm trying to say. And if you can work with a tilt EQ, you can get yourself a tilt EQ plug-in, or you can make one like I've made one here, where there's basic controls. It does the high shelf and the low shelf simultaneously, so you get this seesaw type of effect. But you want it looking something like this. Very important. You're not boosting anything, honestly. The only boost that you really probably want to do, and if you can remember this one thing, if you don't remember anything else from this live stream, people, the magic and the music is in the mid frequencies. It's not in your bass, and it's not in your treble. The high and low frequencies, they're not where your music is going to be sitting. Your music is going to be sitting right in the middle, honestly. So the middle is important. Don't be doing any crazy dips or any shit like that. Don't go fucking around with your mids. You want to enhance your mids. You want to make them clear. And if you've got any harshness, don't use those Goldfoss plugins. Don't use the ones that deharsh things and shit like that. If you're in a pinch, you can use them, but always take it back to the source of the problem. If you're having an issue with an instrument, try and take it back to the source. In the instance of where the snare was today, that I've worked with the snare, I've tried and tried and tried to get that snare to do what I want, but it's not going to happen without EQ. So that's where I've had to cut and sculpt that snare until it's going to sound close to what I think I want it to sound like. And so we've wound up now with that today, that it sounds pretty decent. So anyway, that's my take on the Tilt EQ for now. I'm going to get a bit more into that, more in depth with that later on. And I may actually do a live stream where I show you how that you can build your own Tilt EQ inside of Logic, because they don't, unfortunately, they don't offer that inside the plugin list, and they should. It's one of the most essential EQs that you can work with in the mixing and mastering stage, honestly. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and get off this subject of Tilt EQ. We're going to close that, and we're just going to kind of listen a little bit to what we recorded last night, and some atrocious playing on the bass guitar. I wasn't really doing that well, but just to kind of get a feel for what it sounds like. We're just going to do the A B. So we're going to play the track, and then we're going to put the Tilt EQ on. Then we're going to take it off. Then we're going to take it on, just so I can get a gist of what it's going to sound like in a A/B situation. Okay, so we're going to hit play, and I'm going to be listening through the iPhone speakers here. So anyway, the gist of all this, if anyone is wondering,
So anyway, the gist of
what you want to be thinking about if you're aspiring to mix or master your own stuff, what you kind of want to be thinking about is, number one, what is your audience going to be listening to your stuff on? Are they just going to be playing it through your iPhone? Yes, they will, right? They're going to be playing it through their phones. They're going to be playing it through earbuds. So what you want to do is you want to get your earbuds, you want to get your phone, and you want to be playing your stuff through those things and seeing how does your mix translate to your phone, because anybody on a given day, they're going to rock up and be like, okay, I want to listen to this guy's music. I'm just going to use my phone because that's the most convenient thing that I can listen to it on, or my earbuds, or I might listen to it in my car. That's going to happen a lot less. But you want to start thinking about what is the final filter for your music, and how is your mix translating to all those things. So honestly, I encourage anybody, if you want to really kind of do it on the fly, do like I'm doing. Download OBS and stream the mix to your phone. It's that simple. That way you can actually hear what the end filter, which is your phone, is going to be doing with your mix. And if it's too bottom heavy, your phone's going to let you know really quick. Your earbuds are going to let you know really quick. If you have an opportunity to have a really shitty speaker, try and mix from a shitty speaker. Try and make that shitty speaker sound really good. And that's where you really start to go, okay, yeah, here's where my low frequency is making this tiny speaker just blow up and just rattle and sound horrible, versus here's where my mix now, because we've come in and we've taken a tilt EQ and we've done all that, and I'll show you the tilt EQ again. So we got the tilt EQ here. So here's where we've gone and used the tilt EQ, and now things are really nice and tightened up, and things are sounding pretty good. And we want to kind of stick with that kind of thinking and that kind of approach, because nowadays it's generally people that are going to be listening to your stuff on their phone or on their little earbuds or whatever. And here's one thing. Have you ever listened, so say for instance, have you ever listened to like a Tame Impala song, and you've just maybe listened to it through some really crappy earbuds you've had, or like maybe you even have you might have like an iMac or something that has like damaged speakers, and still you're playing these world-class mixes and they're still translating perfectly well. For some reason, that kick on a Tame Impala record is not doing anything to damage or rattle those speakers on your damaged thing. It's very minimal, and the bass is just perfect. Why is that? Well, number one, Tame Impala has a lot of people working on their albums and mixing and mastering and things that, unavailable to the general public unless you want to pay a shitload of money. But one thing, what they won't tell you is, it's not about boosting your bass. It's not about doing any of these crazy little dips and shit that you do with EQ, what you normally do. It's about, a lot of it's cutting and listening and having that translate everywhere. Having spectral analyzers, and there is one built into Logic, believe it or not. There's a spectral analyzer that'll tell you where things are kind of off and how to, it won't tell you how to correct it, but if you know how to read it, it helps you tighten things up a bit. But that's really the difference. And they don't have, I'll use Tame Impala again for an example. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They, all Kevin does is go, he writes his music, and he does whatever. I'm sure he's proficient at mixing as well.
and mastering. But all they have to worry about is doing the music. And this is a common misconception that people get into. Well, you know, after I've done all my music, after I've recorded everything, why doesn't it sound like them? Well, here's why. Because they're not having to worry about that shit. You are. You don't have the money to pay a mix engineer. You don't have the money to pay a mastering engineer to fix your shitty mix. So do this. Get in there and work with a tilt EQ. Make sure you're cutting your bass instead of boosting, because by the time that gets to the mastering stage, you're going to have a big problem. So get in there, cut, experiment, listen to your mix over a telephone, over some earbuds, and do it over a period of time where you're actually getting yourself comfortable and able to kind of, I guess, detox your ears. Getting used to listening to super bass and stuff like that, because I'm telling you right now, even the super bass music, they got people on the ball knowing exactly where things should be, to where they're sounding just perfect at the right time. They got the right outboard gear, the plugins, the expertise. But if you want to get into that, start cutting, and then work your way around what's comfortable. Train your ears back to listening to, the mids, up in here. This is where your magic is. Right up here, folks. It's not anywhere else, really. There's a bit of magic in the bass and stuff, and your low frequency and everything. There's a bit of sparkle up here and shit, but when it comes to it, you want to be really thinking about how clear your mids are, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. So that's what we're kind of be working with some of these live streams, and if you'll stick around, I'll try and teach you all I know. But I'll leave you with one thing, and that is, instead of trying to pile 10 billion tracks together and sandwich everything together and get everything sound really super impressive, work on getting a mix that sounds clear as possible, where everything can be perfectly defined sonically. If you have a kick that might be masking your bass or vice versa, duck some frequencies where your bass is, masking your kick. Get in there and notch some things and figure that out. Pan things slightly to the left or right. Get things to where these frequencies aren't going to be masking themselves and muddying up your mix and building up this low energy. It's honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's the low energy that's getting built and built and built. You're not even realizing, but by the time you put a few synthesizers on there, you got your piano down there. Even it's the way that you're playing, the way that you're actually performing. All that low frequency builds up. Low mids and sub frequencies. It's mostly low mids, really, is what I see a lot of the time. But you want to really make sure that you're kind of delegating between the amount of instruments you're choosing, the type of frequencies they're going to be putting out, and that sort of thing. So you want to kind of choose it like, just kind of like if you're making a recipe. You don't want too many. You don't want too many things in your recipe, too many ingredients, because if you do that, it's just going to all, sound the same. It's going to all taste bland, and you really want things in there that are just very specific ingredients. And think about that in terms of how you're using instrumentation to achieve that. And so oftentimes, if you think about it this way, some of the best recipes have only a few ingredients, right? They've only got maybe 2 or 3 or 4 ingredients in there, and that's it. How many times have we gone to cook something, we've just thrown everything into a pot and just put everything in there, and then it just turns out to taste like absolute shit, right? Think about it like that. Basic is best, simple is best, and oftentimes it can have the greatest results. So I'll leave you with that one. And join me next time, which may be in a few hours, maybe not. We're going to talk a little bit about the mix floor. And I'll hope to see you then. Thank you so much.